it takes a lot of hard work, a lot of tenacity. It's the long hours, it's putting in the work. Nothing's going to be given to you. And to be successful, quite frankly, it's to never be outworked. If you're the hardest worker in the room, that's what it takes to be successful with the right knowledge and the right path, but it's going to take hard work.
Welcome to the 2% Factor podcast, where we explore where small things have made a massive difference in someone's journey and story. Today, we have with us the owner and CEO of Luxury Auto Collection, here with us, John Schlitt. Welcome, John.
Thank you,
Yeah.
sir. Good to be
Good to
here.
have you. Thank you for joining the podcast. Super excited to kind of break down the things that have happened in your life along your, personal and professional journey, and kind of the different 2% factor moments that you have when you reflect back on how you got to where you're at. And for those that don't know, Luxury Auto Collection it's an incredible car collection, top 3 largest exotic car collection and dealership in the country. I'd say the best one I've ever seen. The inventory you have is insane.
Yeah, we keep we we keep a large selection of cars, and that's it's constantly moving. That's the name of the game. Buy, sell, trade every day. That's what we do.
Yeah, I love it. I'll tell you, the first time that I went in, it's essentially like an airplane hangar, and it's just this massive collection of Rolls-Royce, Lamborghini, Ferrari, G-Wagons. I mean, everything at the upper end.
Yeah, it's definitely all of that. We definitely specialize in Bentleys, Ferraris, Rolls, Lamborghinis. It, Mainly we focus 75,000 and above. Up to, I mean, $3-4 million. Depending on what we can get our hands on at the time, and what's available out on the market, and well, available on the market, and also on the money on the market. So there's a couple different factors. We're
Yeah,
not
it's
a
all got
mu-
to line up.
we're not a museum. We like to see them go bye bye.
Yeah, yeah. You're not trying to collect them. You're actually trying to get them and then sell them. Yeah, I
That's
get it.
right. That's right. That's right. That's right.
I'm actually personally interested in this topic too, because I like exotic cars, and it's such different a different world that I think a lot of people are interested in particular right now. So I'm excited to break down this journey with you. Where when you think about where to start this conversation in terms of kind of key moments in your life that ended up shaping your journey to success, to where you got, where do you kind of naturally back up to?
Oh man, it goes pretty far back for probably the first big decision. I went to college for restaurant management. I always thought I wanted to be, for some reason, in the restaurant business, and I was running some bars and restaurants for a private investor out of Texas, and he was moving to South Padre Island, which is a really fun place to go, probably for spring break and summer vacation, but probably not a place you want to necessarily raise a family. I mean, it's a small little island, and he wanted me to move there. And my first big decision was, I said, you know what? I always wanted to try the car business. Everybody always said, John, you'd be great in sales, man. You should try sales, try the car business. I think you'd be great. I didn't really grow up. I grew up, middle income, lower middle income. Um, I didn't grow up around exotic cars by any means, or high end cars. And got the opportunity. I said, hey, let's I'm not moving to South Padre. I'm gonna jump off into the car business. And that's kind of how I first got into the car business. And you know, I started at a Mitsubishi dealership. I lasted about, I don't know, about 3-4 months, and I realized, wow, that's it wasn't for me. And I got a lucky break with a local guy in Dallas, Texas, and he brought me over to a high end independent dealership called Bentley Sports and Imports, and that was really my first break into the high end segment. Not this high end as luxury auto collection, but the higher end segment of the car business.
But when thinking back at that moment, that was a big change for you because you're in hospitality, you're running bars or restaurants, and then feeling like you've got some natural skills to make that change. But you made a massive career shift at that point.
That was probably my first massive career shift. It's not like I had a big savings. I didn't have a bunch of money put away. I had a good gig going, and I was, obviously in, car business, there's no guarantees. It's,
Yeah.
you know, you,
Well, it's usually commission based,
that's
isn't
right. It's
it? Also.
commission based. I hate to use the term, you eat what you kill, but it's one of those things where it's 100% commission based. And, obviously you have bills. They're not what they are today, but you still have responsibilities. So it was the first big jump, and thank God I did it. I loved it. Learned a lot. Learned a lot there. You know, worked for a gentleman that really showed me the ins and outs of the car business, and I mean from the finance side of the business to uh, the kind of the accounting side of the business. Worked my way up to where I was, managing the operation, doing the buying, helping him do the buying at that point. When I say buying, finding the inventory and, just overall running the operation. That was when, you got to, that was, let's see, that was probably 2021. And back then, car dealers were still they were still doing their advertising in like the newspaper. It was like one liner ads. And the
Wait, did you
auto
you said 20 you said 2021.
I'm sorry, 2001. 2000.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
not
All right.
2021. Yeah, my bad. That's how long I've been doing this. I lose, 20 years. But they were still doing liners in the newspaper. And Auto Trader was a magazine. You bought it I don't that the gas station. And eBay had just come on the scene, and it was really really a big game changer, and we were one of the first to really get out on eBay and start selling cars, and we had really big success. I heard about eBay, and the owner had never heard about this, and I said, listen, we got to try this. And man, it was like wildfire. And I mean, we moved the needle at this. It was a smaller operation. We were doing 30, 40 cars a month. But I mean, at the time when I got there, they were probably doing 10, 15. So to move it up that much, it was a really big deal.
How has the internet and social media changed the car business, in particular for exotic?
I mean, the world is your market now. I mean, it's to the point where you can shop all over the country. I mean, at your fingertips. Everybody now is a car dealer, or has the market research that a lot of the dealers are using as well. I mean, you know, if if you want to, if you want a red 2017 Ferrari, you no longer just go down to your local Ferrari dealership. I mean, you jump on, you know, Google and Auto Trader and Cars.com and you know all the different sites, and you look for the best deal. So obviously relationships are super important, but it's definitely changed the game. Definitely changed the game, and eBay is what really brought all that to the forefront back in the early 2000s, for sure.
Has there been, when you look at it, because you've been in it so long and own something as large as luxury auto collection, what When you look at the impact eBay had on the car business 20 years ago, what else has had something of that significance since eBay?
What eBay did was bring everybody digital. So it, it brought the auto traders and the cars.coms and, the, I mean, every company more or less had to go digital and get digital quick. So I can't think of anything else in the car business, honestly, that's changed the game as big as what eBay did back then. I mean, really, they set the tone for all your for all the marketing.
That was the big jump, right? Bringing everybody online.
That was the
Yeah, I
big
got it.
jump. Yeah, I mean, I always look back at, like, my parents would always say, God, man, I hated going to the car dealership. You'd go there half the day. You felt like they were just, working you over to death. And quite frankly, I'm sure I wasn't in the business back then, but I'm sure they were. I mean, think about if all you knew to do was go to the local dealership. You couldn't check their pricing. You couldn't check their rates, finance rates. You couldn't check your trade without driving around for days and days. I mean, it just changed. It changed the game.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, much for the better, for the consumer, for the dealers. I mean, I'm sure that the old dealers from back in the day probably like, oh, it ruined it, but really, it changed the game for the consumer, and taking care of the customer is number one. I mean, obviously you got to make a profit or you're not going to be around, but you know you if you take care of the customer, they'll always come back. You might not they might not come back to you every single time. I wish they would, but you know they'll remember you. Brand awareness is super important.
What's something about the luxury car, the exotic car business as an owner that people wouldn't expect to know?
Oh, I would say the biggest thing is the margins aren't what everybody thinks they are. Uh, you know, I feel like everybody that's buying a $300,000 car thinks you're making, $100,000. I wish that was the case. It's interesting that our margins are, if you're looking at a if you're looking at a $20,000 car and you're making 5, 6, 7%, or you're looking at a $300,000 car and you're making 5, 6, 7%, it's about what it is. um, Giving away all my secrets. Now everybody's going to try to work me for 7%, but that's you know what I mean. It's just everybody thinks, oh man, they're making 50, 100 grand. It's definitely a volume game. You're not if you're onesie, twosie, three, four, five. I mean, you might be able to do that if you're one man band in a little tiny small spot, but you make it in the volume, uh, because I wish I could say you win on every car deal, but I mean, you're losing. You lose on 20% of the car, 30% of the cars you sell, and obviously, you make and you turn and you get a trade, and it's a volume game.
Yeah, and kind of the long game, it sounds like, where you win some, you lose some, but you want to win more than you lose overall. It's kind of
Absolutely, absolutely. But that's definitely the biggest. I think the biggest thing that is definitely people, clients, and everybody thinks, "Oh man, they got to be making 100 grand." It's like, yeah. If I was, I'd already closed down. Just kidding.
well. Let's go back to your background a little bit, because you own a dealership that a lot of people out there would kill to have, honestly, the situation that you've built your career and life around, because it's such an interesting market. It's such an interesting game. Um, and the inventory that you have is special, right? So I would love to share a little bit about, like, what were some of the incremental steps that you did to make this happen? Like, when you go back to, so you made the jump from hospitality, you jump into, was it new car sales or used car
It
sales at
it
that time?
was uh, it was used car.
A little bit of both. Used, okay. You started there, went into sales, started learning the game a little bit. Where did you go from there?
Oh, so in this is probably the next biggest next biggest jump in life, the 2%er, the 2% decision. Um, I had I was running the store in Dallas for about 4 years. Um, I was doing a lot of business with Penske Automotive in Arizona. Um, they were a much smaller company back then. We're talking 2003, 4, 5. But I was buying a lot of their trades here in Arizona, shipping them to Texas, to my store there. And at some point, the management, high management at Penske said, who is this Bentley Sports? Why are we selling them so many cars to Texas? They said, well, the story goes, they said, he's a good car guy. His checks are good. We really like him. If we're not keeping it, you know, we more or less sell him everything. So I guess Roger at some point said, hey, what are we doing? Why don't we just go out and get this guy? Let's hire him. Let's bring him out here. So in 2005, I was about to get married um, to my first wife. Um, and it, Penske had invited me out to interview. And I mean, talk about timing, right? So I literally get married in like a month, and I've got this interview, come out and interview. I get the job to move to Scottsdale to run. At the time, it was used car manager for Scottsdale, Ferrari, Maserati, Aston Martin, and Bentley. And I took the job. We go on the honeymoon. A week after the honeymoon is the start date. So we up and moved to Scottsdale, and that's where the next 10 years of my automobile career started. Penske Automotive. Um, like I said, started with Scottsdale, Ferrari, Maserati, Aston, and Bentley. And when I came into that dealership, 2005 in May, they were not doing so well. I'll just say we were way in the negative. And by the end of that first year, within 6 months, I turned that store around and made made really good money that first year, and then the rest was history, which I can get into. But that was the next step.
Did you know when you accepted the job at Penske that that was the moment, a critical decision that was, likely going to change your life? Like you made that intentional decision?
I really did. Yeah, and the main reason I did was because I knew what we were doing at the store in Dallas, and it wasn't rocket science, but nobody was really doing it. And when they offered me the job,
So what do you mean by that?
so what I mean is, what when they offered me the job, I jumped on all their websites, Scottsdale Ferrari, Scottsdale Bentley, Aston Martin. I'm looking at what they're doing, and I'm like, oh man, oh, I'm gonna flip this in like 2 seconds. So what I mean is, I came in immediately. Like they were doing the one liners in the paper. They weren't on Auto Trader online. They weren't on cars.com online. Their pictures, their presentation, their pricing, everything was awful. If you called the phone line, you got sent to a switchboard. It just was so unorganized. And we're talking about, I mean, it's not small changes. It takes a lot of work, but it's the formula for success. Back then
So
it
you're
was
so right.
back then it was the formula for success. And and it still is a part of the formula for success. But when I got there, I showed them with Scottsdale Ferrari how it worked, and literally they rolled it out. I mean, we were the poster child for Porsche North Scottsdale for every store in Arizona. They might not want to admit it, but Roger was up their ass saying, hey, how is this guy doing all this out of the Ferrari store? You guys have these gigantic stores. Get out of the paper. Get on Auto Trader. Get on eBay. Start pricing these cars right, and let's start moving metal. And that's how it really all started.
That's actually, I mean, it's an incredible takeaway for people because, I mean, when you rewind that a little bit, right? I mean, you had to take the risk, you had to recognize the opportunity of what you're going to learn by going to such a big establishment. For those that don't know, when you go to Penske Automotive and you go to that dealership, the series of brands they represent are insane,
Yeah, you're talking
right?
about back then they were still, now they're 340 dealerships worldwide. I mean, when I came in, I think there were 250 dealerships worldwide. I mean, 20 they had 24 stores in Arizona. I was 25. I was the youngest used car manager they had ever hired ever. And when I became general manager, I was the youngest general manager in Penske Automotive history. But it was but it was just the processes. The processes were just so out of line, and I knew that I knew what I could do, and with the right processes, and obviously people, and et cetera. But it it became a big part of my life. I mean, it's definitely where when I realized I had something to give, and I also had something to gain.
Yeah, yeah. It. This is what I love about these conversations is like if you just take what you did and the choice you made, the pivot that you made to, with going to the car business from hospitality, and then what you told yourself you were willing to learn, right? I'm going to start at the bottom, I'm going to figure it out, and I'm going to learn. And then what you gain through that experience then put you in a position to then recognize an opportunity in Arizona. And by the way, at that time, Scottsdale isn't what it is now, right? I mean, Scottsdale is now on the map. 20 years ago, it was a little pocket people knew about when they'd come, but now it's known. Um, so for you to go through that, recognize that, learn, and then come in and apply the blueprint and formula. I mean that is these are the micro steps, right? That people don't think about. They don't know that I love exposing.
Absolutely. And on top of that, it's so much. It takes a lot of hard work. I mean, it's it's a lot of hard work, a lot of tenacity. I mean, it's the long hours. It's putting in the work. I mean, your your family suffers a little bit, but nothing's gonna be given to you. I mean, nowadays, I know that people. I mean, everybody, watches, all the Instagram and all the, and even those influencers are working really hard and doing what they're doing. It's not just a couple posts here and there. I mean, success takes hard work. I mean, I still work, 6 days a week. I mean, a lot. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I get to take time, I mean, I can do what I want to do, but that's what it takes to be successful, and to be successful is to, quite frankly, it's to never be outworked. I mean, if you're the hardest worker in the room, or you at least think you are, and you're working hard at it every day and grinding, that's what it takes to be successful with the right knowledge and the right path. But it's going to take hard work.
So you end up taking the job at Penske. How did you move up through Penske before you started Luxury Auto Collection? Before we get into that.
Yeah. So started in Penske 2005, used car manager. 2008, obviously the economy, you know, eh, for the older folks that watched it was a rough time. Obviously, economy just crashed. That was a housing deal, so there were a lot of changes corporately. Um, Here, with Penske Automotive, that's when I got the opportunity to become. I got moved up from used car manager to general manager. um, and shoot, I was 8 years old, and at that time I had Ferrari, Maserati, Bentley, Rolls. Aston, I picked up Rolls and Aston Martin, or no, I picked up Rolls, and became the general manager, and from there, we were still on McDowell. If anybody's familiar, with the Arizona market at that time, my stores were on McDowell. I opened up Lotus for them on it as an additional. I opened Fisker for them as well and kept the other brands. Then we moved to North Scottsdale
Oh, the new
to the
facility,
new facility, and
which is insane. And by the way, to be 28 in GM of those brands is crazy.
it was crazy. But once again, it was the hard work. You know, the right people, had a great staff, had a great team. Penske Automotive is a great company, to work for. I've got nothing but good things to say, about their operation. It just obviously at some point later on in life, I had to make another decision. You know, I I, I had moved. I'd done a great job for Penske, and there's in the corporate world, there's a cap when it comes to income. I mean, let's just be real. I went from having, you know, 60 employees to, having 160 employees and four rooftops. Once we moved up north, it was every building was separate buildings. I was still doing all the used car buying for all those brands because anybody in the car business knows you make your money when you buy the car. If you buy the car right, you can always make a profit, right? So our in the car business, the lingo is you make your money on the buy.
Mm, that's
Yeah.
interesting.
So
I hadn't heard that before.
yeah. So if you make a good buy, then you're going to be able to market the car, make a profit, move on. So all that it just like I said, I kind of got to the cap with them. There was a couple things towards the end of my Penske career that kind of made me think, now if I can work this out, I think I'm gonna make a jump.
So what did that look like in terms of your transition, moving from being GM of this incredible set of brands with Penske, Ferrari, Lamborghini, all of that, into owning your own dealership? How did you make that transition?
So once again, it was another another life changing decision. I mean, it was I had obviously I'd been there 10 years. Okay, so I worked for Penske for 10 years, had a great thing going. Um, my my wife was pregnant with our first daughter. We were about to get married. This was my second wife. I'm sorry, and my and my wife forever now. By the way, um, yeah, and the best mother, best wife a man could ask for. Um, but literally, she was pregnant. We were about to get married, and I went to her and I said, "Babe, I think I'm gonna leave Penske and start my own car dealership." And she said, "Have you lost your fucking mind?" I don't know if you can swear, but like, are you
Yeah, you
crazy?
can.
She's like 6 months pregnant. She's like, "Have you lost your freaking mind?" And I'm like, "Well, let me just tell you." So what happened was a little bit before that, I had found a gentleman that believed in me. He was okay with doing the floor plan for me for my inventory. I had the money for the business, and I said, mentally, I said, if I don't do this now, I'm never gonna do it because I knew once the kids and I would just be too scared to make the jump. And at the same time, I knew that if I did fail and everything went to shit, I did figure, I'm a really good car guy. I've got a good reputation in the industry. A store will pick me up. I didn't think I was going to go homeless. You know what I mean? I knew that if I couldn't come back to Penske, which might not work, since I left, but I knew another dealership would definitely probably bring me on. But it still was a scary jump and a scary move. And thank God I did it. And that's when luxury auto collection began. I resigned with Penske January 1st, 2015.
And I bet you've never looked back.
God, I never look back.
Good for
I,
you.
I appreciate the past,
Yeah.
but I'm so thankful for everything. Me and my family, we've been very fortunate. Like I said, though, a lot of hard work, a lot of
Yeah.
just putting it in.
Let's talk about some of that because there's some gold in there, right? What was your plan to scale your newly founded exotic car business?
So the plan to scale was when I started with like $3 million, right? And the interest rate I was paying would, I mean, should have been highway robbery, but it was private money, so it probably wasn't illegal, but it sure felt illegal. But the gentleman was great. He gave my start, and he said, "Listen, you, you'll never look back." He said, "You within a couple years, within a year, you won't even need me." And I'm thinking, "No, I'll need you." But sure enough, he was right. After you got a good year under your belt, then the banks start coming, with some better opportunities, we'll call it, for the amount of money and the interest rates, etc. But I knew the scale was to start with my initial crew, which was super strong, and all four of them, all five of them are still with me today. I
Really?
Yeah, I took my accounting girl, Carly, um, and Felicia from Penske Automotive, and I brought a gentleman in named Nick Polanski. He's my general manager. Then he was just my sales guy, but now he's more or less helps me run the day to day. um, my 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 main lot guy Jose has been with me now 9 years, and my brother Chris has been a big part of our success. But I knew if we started with the right team, and we had nice cars, and the presentation was right, and the price was right, and we were fair to people on their trades, and we were gave good customer service, that we would be successful. And literally, it's like the three P's. It's like people, presentation, and price. It's it if if you can keep it moving, and you need some lucky breaks through there, because it's not easy, and there's going to be scary times financially, but once you get through that hard times, and that real grind, and you finally got some real money, then you're off to the races. Then more or less you scale as the as your net worth scales, really. I mean, let's be honest.
Is that your opportunity to buy more inventory, as you get
Exactly.
successful?
More inventory, better turn times, more turns a year, turning your inventory. It's that's the key to success, is in the used car businesses, all car business, new car, used cars, is turning the inventory.
How much total inventory, like in quantity, roughly do you guys carry?
We you At Scottsdale, we can hold about 230 cars.
Yeah, I thought a few hundred.
Yeah, so
It's
we're
cool.
about 230 cars. Indoors, we're right at about 48,000 square feet. So we've got um about 160 cars indoors, and then we've got another 60 or 70 outside, mainly the bigger SUVs. Maybe, I don't want to say the less you know what I mean, but yeah, whatever, whatnot.
What are what are some of the craziest cars you've had? What are some of the craziest cars you've ever sold or that you've had in your inventory and sold over the years?
Oh man, we've had so many good ones. you
Couple.
know
What are a couple memorable ones for you?
well, we've had the Bugattis seem to be the bigger price tags. you know um We just did a Chiron for, $3.5 million. I shoot, what, 4 years ago I bought Floyd Mayweather. I bought both of his Bugattis. Um, that was a memorable deal because
Yeah, that's incredible.
that was the start of a relationship with the champ. And you know, he does business with a lot of guys. And he'll be the first one to tell you that you're not going to get his all of his business, but to have him as a client is pretty damn cool.
He's got a pretty big car collection, if I remember right,
He
right?
always has a big car
Yeah.
collection, man. He's always changing things up. I mean, he's the champ. I mean, he's got a lot of houses, so you gotta have a lot of cars.
You gotta fill those garages up.
So about four years ago, I bought the two Bugattis right before the Conor McGregor fight. So that was yeah, it was 2019. So yeah, about 4 years ago. And back then he was really into the hypercars. Like when I bought his two Bugattis, he had just sold his Conan Sig and a couple other cars. And then he kind of got more into the more late model stuff. Like the Rollses, and he's always changing, man. He does what he wants to do, and well, he's a good client, and we've been very fortunate to have a lot of celebrity and athlete clients. I mean, a lot. So, um, you know, I like to say we make it easy for them, and they don't have to go through their buddy and their broker and their manager and all these other layers of fat to actually just get a deal and get it done and get the car and know you got the right deal and not have to worry about getting the title or getting the payoff, the trade paid off, and all this weird quirky stuff that sometimes happens when you're going through all these all the different little brokers that sometimes run around with these guys.
What's the most expensive car you guys have ever sold?
You think I would know that off the top of my? I think it was this Chiron at 3.5 million. I've had a number, not a number, but at least 6, 7 cars in that 3.5 million range. No, I sold a law Ferrari that was 3.8 million. Um, a lot in that three and a half. I mean, not much gets over 4 million in the car. Until you get into like super, like old patina, like race car, like old Ferraris and like super, super
An
classic,
old vintage classic
like
Porsche.
old vintage stuff. Yeah. And that's just not, it's not really what we do.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Don't get me wrong. If I had the right opportunity, we would definitely, be happy to have them. But it's a whole different business model.
Yeah, makes sense. Is there a car that you're, that personally you want to get? Is there a car, not for yourself to drive personally, but is there a car that you've always wanted to have in your collection and resell?
There's not one that I wanted to have and haven't had. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, like
Yeah.
there's really not. I mean, there's some cool stuff coming out. Like
Okay.
I,
Yeah.
I have
What are you
a
hoping to
I
get?
have a Mercedes Project One coming, and they're only building 140 of those worldwide, and only 40 are coming to the U.S. And I was fortunate enough to lock a spot in on one of those cars literally 4 years ago. And that car was supposed to be out 3 years ago, but it's had some delays in admissions and whatnot. So hopefully we're going to see that car late this year, or first part of next year. So that's going to be a very exciting car, and I think that one will probably fetch north of the 3 and 4 million um,
Is
dollar
that some,
price.
is that, is that something, John, where you throw it on auction or you make it a feature, at your dealership? Like, how do you go about selling something like that?
I mean, that car is going to be so special. It'll be at the dealership, and we'll do, we'll do we'll probably have an event around it for our good clients. And once that car hits the market, the the top 1% come out, from all over the world, really. I mean, your market's not even the US. It could be anywhere.
Yeah, that's a global buyer, right?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's unbelievable to think, but I mean, just think about the amount of billionaires in the world. I mean, and the fact they only made 140 of them. I mean, somebody's going to be upset. Somebody's going to be upset they didn't get one and have to have it.
What
I
is
love, I
the
love, I love fitting in that part.
I like it.
Yeah, yeah.
What's the typical buyer profile for luxury auto collection?
It used to be. I used to think the client profile was like 32 to 50, right? And $500,000 income and above. But I mean, in the last 4 years, that has changed dramatically. I mean, I would say it's probably 20 years of age now and probably still to about around 50. And the income is probably still in that same, it's still in that same price point, somewhere in the maybe 250,000 dollar annual income and above. But the age is what just surprises you. And people come in the store and they're like, you, when I tell them we sell, 100, cars a month, they're like, there's no way. I'm like, that's what we sell, month in, month out. I mean, you know, it always looks the same because it's always red Ferraris and yellow Lamborghinis and orange, and it's all, you know what I mean. But it's different cars coming and going, and that's it's just unbelievable to me. It still shocks me, um, the amount of, I mean, quite frankly, the amount of wealth and the success that, um, even the younger age. It's not just your older presidents and CEOs of big companies. It's the market is wide. The market is wide.
Do you think that you're seeing more younger people with money or more younger people who are willing to spend money on exotic vehicles?
I don't know. I don't know. I think it's both. After what I have noticed is after the COVID scare, a lot of people, you know, realized, like, wow, I, life could be pretty short, and I do have some money, and I have always wanted a new Bentley, you know, and they might not have been a Bentley buyer before, or a Rolls buyer, or a Ferrari guy, or something, but I think that the COVID scare really woke a lot of people up.
That's a really interesting insight.
It really did. And um the I think the younger generation has just, quite frankly, I think they're just making more money. If And maybe I'm a little biased because I see so many, you know what I mean? I don't know the exact numbers of, younger. When I say younger, I mean the 20 to 30-year olds that are, make it, doing so much better, or from this year over last year. It just seems that we're seeing a lot more of that. A lot more of it. The currencies, the bitcoins, all the different, hell, all the different coins. They're all of them. A lot of people have made a lot of money.
So are you seeing that? Are you seeing people walk into your dealership because they bought and sold Bitcoin at the right time and altcoins and taking some of those profits and buying an exotic car?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, we see it. We see it all the time. We don't accept the coins here. I just haven't found the right. I wish the right company would reach out and say, "Hey, we can do it for you." Maybe they see this podcast and reach out and contact us. I just don't know all the regulation behind accepting them. I think I do, but I just haven't. You know what I mean? It's a fine line, I think. But absolutely, I know a lot of the clients that they do cash out their coins, bitcoins, and all the different all the different coins, and come in and buy cars. 1,000%.
That is really interesting, especially right now with the Bitcoin halving coming up. Bitcoin's and all the cryptocurrencies have been going crazy. So it'll be interesting to see if you see an influx. It hit an all-time high last week. So, I think there's some profit takers that might be walking in the door if that's the case.
Absolutely. I mean, it's interesting. It's really fascinating because I mean, I have to have a taste of it because I mean, you can't just sit on the sidelines. You don't know where it's going to go, but it sure has been okay for me.
It would be definitely be an interesting trend to watch as you watch, the cryptocurrencies, the key ones go up, and then see how that impacts exotic sales. That would be interesting over the years.
Another really interesting thing is seeing the electric cars and what's going to happen with the market. I think that's another thing to really, really watch.
I
Uh,
agree.
I mean, I feel like our clients really are not taking to it, you know, and so many of the manufacturers. I mean, you think about Rolls-Royce and Bentley and Ferrari and you know Lamborghini, and these manufacturers are obviously in countries that their regulations are even stronger than our regulations when it comes to electric. But the U.S. market is is their biggest market, and it's like it's just going to be interesting to see. It's going to be interesting to see because you've seen the prices on the non-turbo cars and the naturally aspirated and just all gas high-end exotic cars has been really strong. Has been really strong because I a, a lot of hybrid stuff's coming, and we're just going to see how the whole market takes to it, not just the U.S. market, but I mean the world market,
Globally, yeah.
global. Yeah,
Do
for
you,
sure.
is it a fair statement that your typical exotic buyer is pushing back on electric as compared to gas powered?
You So far, I would say they haven't pushed back too much, but when I that's on the exotic side because the hybrid versions of these cars, partial gas, partial electric, has is is really trick. I mean, they're getting a lot of horsepower out of these cars. It's unbelievable. But not only Rolls has gone to an all electric, version. Their new coupe, the
Yeah, I
Spectre.
heard the Spectra, and then I heard the Cullinan, the next version of Cullinan's coming out as electric.
Yeah, and the Mercedes G Wagon. The next version is gonna be all electric, and man, we're gonna see. I mean, I don't want to talk bad about Rolls. I love Rolls, and if anybody knows me, knows. I mean, it's the car I prefer to drive every day. But that that the Spectre is done all right, but I don't know if it's doing exactly what they were hoping for.
Has anybody given the Spectra? For those that don't know, it's first all electric Rolls-Royce car that's been released, and it came out maybe 6 9 months ago. Has anybody sold one and resold one through you at this point?
Oh yeah, I've sold 6 or 7 of them. Um, and and the clients are liking them. It's just I'm starting to see a few more than what's usual hit the market for a car that just came out, which sometimes isn't the best indicator.
Yeah, that exactly. That was my
I
sense
don't
too.
want
I
to
mean,
set any trends right here on our show. I don't want to cease
uh,
and desist from Rolls Royce. You know what I mean?
we're we're big fans.
Yeah, and I'm a good customer. So yeah,
I'm sure. I'm
yeah,
sure.
yeah, yeah. Yeah.
But to your point, it'll be interesting to watch what happens. The market's different now, right? It's not just the local community. You certainly have buyers here, but it's a global business.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, our business, we're 40% of our business even today is out of state. I mean, we ship cars all over the country every day. And we buy cars all over the country every day. So yeah, I mean, um, yeah, I mean the business is all over, and there's a lot of great guys and great dealers out there that you do a lot of business with. I'll tell you. I got in the aircraft business. So I don't even know if you're aware of that, but we do
Yeah, I
private.
was. I wanted to ask you about that. I wanted to ask you about how'd you transition into private jets and aircraft sales? How did that all happen?
I started in 2018. I got my aircraft dealer license. Um, a good friend of mine, he owned one of my clients. He owned quite a few airplanes, but he was a little older. He was a little fussy, if you know what I mean. And yeah, it was just funny. I was listening to him talking to clients on one of his airplanes, and I was like, "Listen, if I learn the ins and outs, would you give me an opportunity to try to sell your airplanes for you?" And I really dug in on the maintenance of airplanes and what goes into it and the times and it's just so different. It's hard to get into, but
Well, it's
I
a whole nother world. Like if you don't know, you don't know.
whole nother world, and yeah, just a whole nother world. So I dug in, got the opportunity, and sold like three of his airplanes in like the first, let's say, year. And he was like, God, good Lord. And he was super thrilled, and so was I. And that was kind of the first step in. And then at the beginning, we were doing a lot of just brokering for clients that had airplanes. So we would sell their airplanes, obviously, for a commission. And then about 2.5 years ago, I was fortunate enough to be able to go out and get my own financing. So we buy aircrafts all over the world, bring them in, refurb. When I say refurb, I mean, do paint and interiors, and if they need, inspections, or need to get current on their service or whatnot. And we bring them to market. And when we bring them, they're I mean they're tens. I mean they might be a 15-year-old airplane, but they look like they just came off the assembly line. So
I've seen them on your website. They're incredible. And
yeah, it's been a really good business for us, and I think that there's a lot of opportunity for us in that segment.
are you seeing growth in the private jet business market?
Oh yeah, that business has exploded over the last 4 years, ever since COVID, really. And when COVID happened, that business just went, it exploded globally, and here in the US.
And without asking, uh, you know, too much personal information on it, has that become, would you say, a significant part of your business overall, or just still a smaller segment?
No, it's definitely a big part of our business overall. It is. I mean, last year we did 11 private jets. This year, the year before, we did like 8. Last year 11. This year we're, goal of about 14. We've built that team up. I mean, full time, very experienced maintenance director, has been in the business, 120 years, 128 years. A couple sales guys that also do acquisitions that have been, 12, 15 years in the business. And we're looking all the time. So, and anywhere, all over the world. It's fascinating. It's really fascinating. And it's I feel like it, for me, it's like the car business when we hit with eBay. That's how much opportunity I think there is. It's really still handled like the good old boy deal. Like very little marketing guys do. You bought your last plane from this guy, so you go back to him. It's really really interesting, and I think there's a lot of opportunity.
Well, credit to you. You're the first guy that I've seen that's come along and comboed this luxury exotic car business with the private plane and private jet business, and it caught my attention when I saw it before I even met you, and I saw that pivot in your business a few years ago when you did it, And I thought it was a super smart move. It's great to hear how well it's doing, and it makes a ton of sense because you're right. It's kind of an old school model that now has some new school marketing and approach to it.
There's so much cool stuff out there, and we're in the luxury business, right? I mean, we're selling luxury cars, we sell luxury sprinter vans, we sell luxury jets. I mean, we're almost like a luxury lifestyle. I mean, it sounds cheesy and cliche to say, but it really is what it is. I mean, it it fits our brand so well, and so many of our clients, they they want a private aircraft. They just don't know, you know, how to do it. We
Yeah, how to make
also
it
we
happen, how to finance it, where do I
Yeah,
store
if you're
it,
financing,
how
if
to.
you're not, how to own it, how to operate, how to manage it. So we've also started a management company. We manage about 4 aircrafts now, and it's really just been 4 of our clients that have bought aircrafts that now it like takes the stress off of them at the beginning of ownership. After you've owned an aircraft for, a year or so, you kind of know what goes into it a little better, and you know how to work it, right? More or less. But that first year is very, very overwhelming. And a lot of people can afford them, but don't know how to completely manage and operate.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, the maintenance involved, all the things that it takes in order to run it, and yet there's models where you can put them in pools and where you can offset some of those costs where it doesn't need to be as substantial as maybe the way people think about it.
Exactly. You're exactly right. Exactly right.
That's good. We have to talk about this before we finish the episode. Uh,
Oh, here we go.
I, it's not going to
I'm
be what you
kidding.
trust me. It's not going to be what you expect.
All right.
I mean, like personally obsessed with the comfort and luxury of like a van. Like, I mean, like people that know me, they know that like if I had it my way, I'd have one of these big comfortable vans and I drive in it every day. So tell us a little bit about the pivot that you made into the Sprinter van business. And these things are decked out. I mean, they're crazy.
Oh yeah. They're phenomenal. We what happened? We were approached, I guess, about 3, 4 years, right before COVID, probably 5 years ago, by Midwest Automotive. That's kind of where we started. They're a distributor, so they're an outfitter, and we are their West Coast distributor. And once again, it was just a perfect fit. We would get a lot of these luxury vans on trade, and we did really well with them selling them. And we kept calling the manufacturers to get the build sheet information so we could actually advertise them properly. Because at the time, we didn't know really, you know, what all was in them and how it all operated. So after calling a few times, they finally reached out. I was like, "Hey, we've checked you guys out. Would you guys be interested in being a dealer?" And I looked at it and I was like, "You know what? We definitely would be interested in being a dealer." And they came out and obviously, love the location, and met with their team. They got a great team, and brought them on, and it has just been a perfect fit for us. Our clients, once again, like you said, these aren't your little church vans that you used to ride to, uh, Sunday school in, with the, 10 seats, and, go on field trips in. You know what I mean? They're almost like a, private jet on
They're
wheels.
a private jet on wheels.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
and we kind of stay in that segment. We're not trying to, take over the RV business by any means. That's we like to try to stay in our lane as much as
I was
possible.
gonna say, it is a
But
different lane.
it but it has they're great. Our clients love them. You think that it's going to be a lot of business owners, and um, maybe hotels, and golf courses, and FBOs, private, all these different. And then you really realize that, you know, we get a lot of just families. I mean, when you've got 4 or 5 kids,
It makes sense. It makes
you
sense.
got 4 or 5 kids, and these things are easy to drive, very comfortable. And I mean, nowadays, I mean, SUVs that fit 4 kids are. You talking about Escalades and all. I mean, these things are 130, $140,000 anyway. I mean, now you can have this big van fits that plus the kids plus all their stuff and their friends for damn near the same price, and you're getting so much more. I
Yeah,
mean,
by the way, captain's chairs, refrigerators, TVs, you know,
right.
all
You
the
have
things.
massaging seats, partitions. I mean, they're laid out so many different ways. Benches that turn into beds. It's been a great business for us. Now we expanded just in October. We opened up a separate showroom next door that is called Luxury Van Collection, because we picked up a couple other brands, Midwest, OGV, which is part of oh god, they'll kill me, Berkshire Hathaway Group, North Star, Explorer, because they all just have different layouts and different needs for different folks. But now they're in a separate showroom. You could come in, see them in the air conditioning, walk, sit in all of them, kind of see what works for you, and hopefully take one home, right, brother?
I'm ready to visit there tomorrow. Trust
Yeah,
me. Any,
yeah. Come on in.
is that showroom open?
It's open. It's
I'll be
open
there.
tomorrow.
Look for me.
Six
I'll
days
be
a
there.
week.
I'm telling you, my friends and family, anybody who watches this, they're gonna die laughing because I'm telling you, the van's right up my alley. Um, all right. So let me ask you just a couple of things, and then I want to see your showroom. Um, we'll take a second and then show everybody, and then we'll wrap up. But when you look at the last, I don't know, 8, 9, 10 years here with luxury auto collection, the expanses you made, what are a couple of the biggest 2% moments for you as a business owner and as a person who's looking to grow the business and grow the brand?
I think we went over them, but I think the first move to get into the car business was definitely the 2%. To make that jump, um, to come to Scottsdale with Penske Automotive was a huge decision. To leave Penske Automotive and start Luxury Auto Collection was a huge 2% decision. I mean, um, to get into the aircraft business, I mean, everybody told me that's, forget about it. That's impossible. No bank will ever look at you. It's too high risk, et cetera, et cetera. That was definitely a 2% moment. Um, Man, Dan, I think all of those have led up to where we are today with a great support staff. My wife has been, you can't do it without a strong family. I mean, you could do it if you don't have a family, obviously, but if you got a family, you got to have a great support staff. My wife gets it. She supports it. Hell, she's 2%. You know what I mean?
There
I
you go.
mean,
There's a 2% decision right there.
there's the 2% decision. Being married to someone that stands behind you, understands you're grinding every day. And, if you're married, it's important. They gotta be there along for the ride. And it's it's uh it's an interesting ride, but you that's it.
I love it, man. I love it. Thank you for sharing. I mean,
Yeah.
just golden nuggets that you're expressing along the way, choices you've made, just amazing.
Yeah, it's interesting when I watch your shows, because obviously I do. It You hear so many of, it's the same, not the same stories, different stories, but really so much of the same message. Like you got to make the leap of faith, to make that move in your life. Obviously, it needs to be calculated, not some crazy move, but and then you just got to put in the work to get it done. And I think, if you're, like I said, I always say tenacity, because if you're not out, if you're never outworked, man, I think you'll be successful. I don't know what level of success, but you will be successful.
I love and appreciate what you just said so much because that's how I feel on the other side of this, meeting impressive people such as yourself. When you actually break down what occurred, there is a formula there, right? Of learning and getting that grit in and that grind in and understanding what you need to know about your craft and the area that you're going to go. And then coming to a moment where you decided to take a risk and then going all in and then working harder than everybody else, knowing more than everybody else in terms of your product and your market and your blueprint and your formula. If anybody watches the 2% Factor podcast across the different folks we've had on, you're absolutely right. That's a killer insight from you that there's a formula to this that you are also expressing in your story. And I can't thank you so much for sharing it. It's just a lot of respect for what you've done. And I can't wait to see what happens over the next several years on how you grow the luxury brand. Because you're right, it's not just auto collection, it's private planes and airline industry, it's the van experience in that particular niche that you're in there, and other things that I'm sure you'll continue to bring to the market and evolve along the way.
Hey, I appreciate you reaching out. I was honored to be on here, and you know, you guys got a great show, and love listening to other people's stories. I mean, you learn from people. I mean, if you don't put yourself in front of more successful, I don't think that's the right terminology, but people that are more successful than you, how are you going to learn? I mean, you got to learn from somebody. And I think if you put yourself around people that are more successful than yourself, and you listen to their stories, and if you'll actually listen, absorb it, and do it on your own level, that's what it takes. That's what it takes. Let me show you. Let me
Yes.
let me see if I can figure out showing you a little bit of the showroom.
Yeah. Show us the showroom. I want people to see what we're looking at here. Let's take a peek.
All right, let's take a look. Let me see if I can work all this thing out here, buddy boy.
That's working.
Is this working?
Yeah. Tell the viewers what we're seeing here.
So you're seeing oh, sorry, one side here, bunch of Rolls, Bentleys, G Wagons. This is the side of the showroom. The boys are down here shooting photos. We got the Ferraris and the McLarens and Teslas and who knows what. Let's see. Then we got the Skittles package over here.
Yeah.
Can you see down there? I can't
Oh
tell.
yeah. No, it's perfect. We can see everything.
Yeah, got the Lambo lineup, Porsches, the Urises, the Cullinans. Then a couple boys back there selling something, which is always good.
That's good. Making you
Yeah,
some
we got
money
you.
right
Got to
now.
sell, baby. You got to sell.
All right, John, as you know, there's one question we end every podcast with, and I want to ask you this. I'm really interested to hear what you have to say. When you look back at everything that you've accomplished, what would you say if you were speaking to your 22-year-old self?
I would say believe in yourself, have the balls to go do it, whatever that is, and you better work hard. You better work hard because nobody's gonna give it to you, brother. That's really it. I think the biggest thing is to make the once you know what path you want to get on, you know, just learn it, know it, and be the best at it. Because I never thought I was going to be in the car business, and I love it. Like they say, uh, if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life, right?
Hey, there you go.
That's it.
Hey, amazing advice, brother. I can't thank you enough. Give us the Instagram, anything you want to promote on all your different businesses.
You got it. So Instagram is hold on, I got all my kids' art back there. It's great art too. Look at that. Oh yeah, baby. Instagram Luxury Auto Collection USA. Um, check us out at luxuryautocollection.com, luxuryarrow.com. You can get to it all of it from Luxury Auto Collection. The van collection is on there as well. And we appreciate all the support, man. We're not successful without great clients and people checking us out and following us on Instagram and showing us love. And it doesn't, it means a lot to me, it means a lot to my family, and it means a lot to my team. And that's it, brother. We appreciate you.
Amazing. Thank you, John. I mean, such a pleasure. Amazing podcast. Thank you for joining. Killer outcomes and takeaways for people to learn from, which is exactly why we're doing this podcast. So can't thank you for enough. For those of you watching, please go to YouTube, subscribe, like all the different things, make comments, and thank you for watching.